We left Esther last week, having just made her courageous decision to go before the king with a fervent plea to spare her people, meaning all of the Jews living in the region who now, by royal policy, were facing annihilation. Esther's decision is made in full knowledge that approaching the king at her own initiative endangers her very own life. Esther's decision is made with Mordecai's words ringing in her ears, "Who knows? You may have come into the royal court for just such a time as this." Now, to understand the rest of the story, it helps to know that in many ways, the book of Esther is written as a Hellenistic Greek farce and comedy. And we need to know some things about Haman as well. The Persian king's chief advisor, Haman, is a rather grandiose man, focusing primarily on his own well-being with little regard for anything but his own happiness and pleasure. He hates Mordecai, Esther's Jewish adoptive father, because Mordecai will not bow down to him in honor and submission. Self-absorbed Haman, infuriated by what he interprets as a personal affront on Mordecai's part, shapes the political dialogue so that all the Jewish people seem radically different from the Persians, so different and such a threat that they should be destroyed. Through his political conniving and bribery, the official royal policy becomes a so-called ethnic cleansing initiative for the extermination of all the Jewish people. Risking her life by approaching the king on her own accord, what a pleasant surprise it is to discover not only does the king welcome Esther, he wants to know the queen's request, promising to give her whatever she wants, even half of everything that he owns. Perhaps after some time in the royal court, Esther is becoming politically savvy. She doesn't make an immediate request, but plans a series of banquets for the king and for Haman, the king's chief advisor. Haman is thrilled. Not only does he have the king's favor, but now the queen's as well. Oh, happy day for pompous Haman. But his greatly inflated mood deflates quickly when he runs again into Mordecai, who again refuses to grant Haman the deference Haman expects and demands. Arriving at home, Haman reviews before family and friends all the splendor and wealth he has acquired, the promotions he has received, the favor of the king, and the special honor he is receiving even now from the queen. But all of this means nothing to Haman as long as Mordecai refuses to honor him. Haman becomes compulsively fixated on Mordecai. And at the advice of family and friends, on the eve of Queen Esther's banquet, Haman has a gallows built, planning in the morning before the banquet to ask the king to hang Mordecai. Then Mordecai, rather pleased with himself, happily prepares for Queen Esther's banquet. The farce and comedy of the story shine through more clearly as the story moves forward. This very same night, on the eve of Queen Esther's banquet, the king cannot sleep and asks someone to read the records, the royal archives, to him. Now, this is likely about as exciting as reading month after month of session minutes, no offense to our wonderful clerk of session, Craig McLean, but lo and behold, interesting things are to be found in archival records, just like in old session minutes, and the king discovers how Mordecai has saved him from an assassination plot, but has not been honored in any way for his deed. So the king consults Haman about what he should do for someone deserving such great honor. Self-absorbed Haman leaps to the thought, whom would the king wish to honor more than me? So thinking he is planning his own party, Haman speaks of royal robes, a royal horse, a royal crown, suggesting the king give all these things to one of his most noble officials, who will take them to the one being honored, and then parade the honoree through the streets on horseback, proclaiming, "Thus shall it be done to the one whom the king wishes to honor." As the comedy and farce of the story continue, the king really likes Haman's ideas and orders Haman to take all of these things to Mordecai, the man Haman hates most of all, Nothing is to be left out that Haman himself has suggested. Haman has to lead Mordecai on horseback through the open square of the city, proclaiming as they go, "Thus shall it be done to the one whom the king wishes to honor." Humiliated Haman returns home in grief after this disgusting royal assignment, only to be told by family and friends, "Your downfall has begun. You are going to be done in by Mordecai." As fate would have it, the attendants at this very moment arrive in the midst of the conversation, whisking Haman off to the banquet Esther has prepared for the king and for Haman. I suppose Haman tries to be happy, but he has no idea the type of banquet Queen Esther has planned. When the king inquires of Esther now for the third time what her request of him might be, again promising the queen whatever she wishes, up to half of his kingdom, Esther explains the plan to annihilate her people, asking that her life and the life of all the Jews be spared. When the king inquires who has presumed to carry out such an awful plan, Esther names Haman, and the king, furious with his chief advisor, sends Haman to the gallows to be hanged, the very gallows Haman had built for the hanging of Mordecai. It's easy to get caught up in the ironic, even comedic tragedy of this story, in its theater-like quality and style, in all the people and details. But if we focus on the actions of Esther and Mordecai, a story of courage, integrity, and political savvy begins to emerge. Both Esther and Mordecai grasp the reality in which they find themselves, understanding the seriousness of what is happening around them. Each begins to understand they could play a significant, even a major role in changing the course of what is happening around them. The possibility begins to take hold in their very souls that maybe, perhaps, even probably, they are in this situation for just such a time as this to make a real difference in the world.